Hello, team, and welcome to episode 1 of Interviewing the Hero. You. And team, it's a pleasure to be here. I've been working on this course maybe for a decade and a half, as long as I have been teaching. And throughout this time, many students have asked me for help, whether it's for companies that just asked for English, or whether it's to leave the country and actually work in other places that only spoke English. And I've distilled this. Really, I woke up the other day in the middle of the night, 3 a.m., and it all fit together. And I said, I need to get this down so that I can help you. And what we're going to see is some quick fixes, things that you can improve in 1 week that really make a difference. And we're going to start today with the hero's journey. And this is where I'm really going to ask you on getting your English as close to perfect as possible. And in other places in the interview, it's less important. But if you can get 30 seconds where you really nail your English, where you really show off what you know, you'll see that the interviewer will relax and they'll stop paying as much attention to this. And you'll be able to talk about your strengths and to show them why they should hire you. Because that's what the interview is. It's communication. It's where you have a message about why you are good at what you do, and you need to get them to think as close to what you want them to think as possible. And team, I've been on 3 interviews in my life, but I have spent about 7,000 hours since the beginning of the pandemic talking into this square and helping people to communicate better. And many times I'm convincing people to give me money, to believe in me, and I have a pretty good closing rate. I'd say at least 80%, probably higher than that. I always offer these trial classes where I get to know the student and I tell them a little bit about myself. And I'd like to do exactly that because that's our warm-up, establishing your baseline. What I mean by this, get rid of that fear of speaking into the square because you're going to have to do it. And you don't want the first time to be when you have an important interview, when you have a job that you want to practice now. So then when you get there, poof, it's easy. And I always remember a student of mine who has become a friend of mine, Mr. Sash. He told me that he wanted to work at a specific company when I met him. The first day, that's what he said. I want to work at X company. And before he got the interview at this company, he took a bunch of them, ones that he didn't want, but they were practice. And when the company that he wanted to work at called him for an interview, he was relaxed, he was confident, and he got the job. So let me tell you a little bit about myself, because that is going to be the first question. And for about 30 seconds, they will be paying attention to your English. Why do I know this? Because every single time I meet a new student, that's about as long as I can pay attention to the little details. After that, I'm listening to their stories, what they have to say. But right at the beginning, I'm trying to get an idea of their English level. And it's pretty accurate. I can tell how good their English is from those 30 seconds. So my name is John. I was born in the small city of New York. I moved to Brazil when I was 16. My mom is from a really big city, metropolis, known as Bom Despacho, Minas Gerais. And after high school, I studied engineering. I went through 5 semesters before I gave up. I did not want to be an engineer. I like my hair, too much stress involved. So I quit. I left engineering college. And after I quit, I was worried. I didn't really know what to do. And I needed money. So I thought, I can be an Uber driver, but I really don't like driving. But a friend of mine, he was going to Australia. And he asked me for some help. I speak English. He needs to speak English. All right, let's do this. And what I discovered was I did not know how to teach English. No, just because I spoke the language did not make me an English teacher. There were a lot of rules that I needed to study, I needed to remember so that I could help him. And I did. And it's been a decade and a half since then. And it started as a job, and now it really is. It's a career. It's a life. I get to talk to interesting people. I get to be creative, something I love. I've always been a nerd, and I used to create for my friends. When I used to play RPGs, D&D, I used to play an online game where I was a moderator and I would create events for people to play. And now I get to create these classes for motivated, interesting people like yourself. And that's what we're here for. To make sure that you can really show off what you have, because I can see it, and let's get that interviewer to see it as well. So that it would be my interview, my introduction. And I've done some type of version of that many times. I've just done this in one recording. I did not have it planned, but I knew the points I needed to hit. And that's part 2. It's your outline. You do not want to memorize what you are going to say, because you sound like a robot and your eyes kind of go like this when you are trying to remember what it was that you wrote down. What we do want is the important points that you can hit. And so I've been working as an English teacher for a decade and a half. I mentioned this so that you believe that I'm capable of teaching English. And then I say that I'm born in New York to emphasize this. And why did I highlight I've been working? Team, it's a good place to show off your present perfect. I've been working with this for X amount of time. I've lived here for this amount of time. If somebody recommended you for the position, you can say, I've known this person. If a student uses this easily, it's usually a good it's usually a good sign that they speak English well. So I will take note of this, and I'm sure the interviewer, if they're judging your English, will do this as well. I dropped out of engineering school, needed money. That's just beginning. It's like, why am I teaching English? I'm telling you this. I love what I do. I told you, what I'm doing, and how can I help you? That's what I do. So I go through these 5 points, more or less. I change it up every time I tell the story. And in this case, I was doing this for an interview class. So I didn't actually go to number 5, because that would be when I was meeting a new student, for example. So I want you to write down in your outline, what are the most important points? I need to hit 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5. I put 5, it's not a specific number, but find those most important details that you want to talk about. Number 3, breadcrumbs. And team, if you have 2 hours, this is a magical podcast. I did not know the speaker before. I think his name is Matthew Dix, but he is an amazing storyteller. He tells a story about a spoon, and he takes nothing and turns it into gold. He's like a story alchemist. But breadcrumbs. And what are we doing here? We are leaving a trail back to where we want. And we will come back to this next week. But basically, I want you to have 1 or 2 interesting details that the person can remember easily. And what did I do? I went for the kind of humor path. If you are listening to this, when I told you my introduction, maybe you kind of smiled when I mentioned that my mom was from the metropolis of Bom Despacho. If you're Brazilian, you know Bom Despacho is tiny. I think its main inhabitants are like mosquitoes. But that's point 1. I mentioned the hair thing. I mentioned that I was not good at teaching English, these specific points where I can get you to smile. And I knew that if I could get you to smile, that you would trust me better, that you would be like, let's see what this guy has to say. So these little points are useful. And specifically next week, we will talk about how we can use this to emphasize your strongest quality. Part 4, your rough draft. Everybody has access to AI. And one of the great things that AI can do is give you something as close to grammatically perfect as possible. So I'm not asking you to memorize what you write, but I think it is good for you to see what a perfect paragraph, as if you were writing an essay for school, would look like. So write it out. Ask AI for help, ask it to correct you, and you can use my link to the GPT, the Gringo Personal Teacher. It is trained for exactly this, but I'm pretty sure any AI can do this at this point. Part 5, your challenge, the hero's journey. Film yourself again, this time without notes. Team, you need to be comfortable talking into the square. And I've seen too many people who kind of put it off. until the day of the interview. And then they're nervous, they're sweating, they have those pizzas under their arms. That's not what we want. We want it to be easy. And but I don't like to do it. I don't like the sound of my voice. It's not my problem. And you only need to pass one interview. You need to practice as many times as you need to pass that one interview. But unless you are at the job of your dreams, there's a good chance that you will need to go on an interview. And if it's important to you, because our professions are important to us, you should practice. So team, that's what I've got for you. That's episode 1. Let's go through this one more time. Number 1, practice. This is just to see how you're starting. Number 2, create an outline, just the points you want to hit. Number 3, something interesting. Make them remember you so that you're not interviewee number 3 of the day. Number 4, write it out so that you can see any detail. Maybe there's something you missed. Maybe you're saying something wrong. And number 5, practice again. All right, team? Thank you. That's what I've got. And I better see you in class next week. Thank you.